I know the Secretary really was looking forward to talking to you tonight. Unfortunately, as the Senator mentioned, she was called away, and I am often her surrogate at some of these events. Prior to being the solicitor, I was actually the Secretary of Labor in New York. And I have to say that one of my predecessors in New York as Secretary of Labor, Frances Perkins, was the first woman in the cabinet. So I have a long tradition, I think, of proud New Yorkers at the Labor Department. But first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time off from your busy lives to coming to Washington. I understand that we've got business leaders here, community leaders, teachers, students, allies, advocates, all of you. I'm also understand that you were handpicked from hundreds of applicants, so that's really very impressive. So I'm happy to sit here to be able to talk to you. You must be agents of change in your community, and I know that this is not an easy time. We're going through an unprecedented time in our history. None of us have seen anything like these economic times in our lifetimes. First, we had a financial crisis that was bad as anything since the Great Depression, and then we've had a recession that's been hurting so many families. And I know we've got some elected officials here in this town, and I know the recovery has really been hard on you. It's really stretched your resources. But even in the toughest times, everyone here is stepping up to the plate for Colorado's families. President Obama knows that too. And we know that everyone's work is really critical in these crucial times. We're continuing to add jobs to this economy, but keep in mind that when this administration took over, the economy was shedding 800,000 jobs a month. 800,000 jobs a month we were losing. Last week, we at the Labor Department reported that over the last 27 months, we've added a total of 4.3 million private jobs in this economy. And across the board, and of course, one of the reasons is that we're not doing better is that while we've added 4.3 million private sector jobs, we have been shedding incredible numbers of jobs in the public sector. That's what's happening. Across the board, though, in private industry, sectors are growing. Last month, we saw strong growth in healthcare, in transportation, in warehousing, and in wholesale trade. Growth in manufacturing is also continuing to trend up, adding nearly 500,000 jobs over the last 28 months. It's the strongest job growth in manufacturing since 1995. So we've made progress, but we really have a lot more to do. We're still fighting back from the worst economic time since the Great Depression. It's growing, but it's not growing fast enough. Businesses are creating jobs, but they're not creating enough. That's why the President continues to ask Congress to give us opportunities to put people back to work. Last month, the President sent a to-do list over to Capitol Hill, urging congressional leaders to do the following things to help get everybody back to work. It includes common sense, bipartisan initiatives that will help create jobs, help restore security for the middle class. It includes things like rewarding companies for bringing jobs back from overseas, giving tax credits to small businesses, helping veterans find jobs, investing in clean energy manufacturing, and expanding refinancing for responsible homeowners. But the President and the Secretary can't do it on their own. They need your help to make sure that every single person in every single community is thriving again. That's why these type of conferences are important, because they provide education and tools and resources that you need to go back to Colorado and affect change. And they also provide opportunities for leaders here in Washington to learn about your issues and your concerns. They allow people in Washington to take your ideas and concerns and turn them into blueprints for action. So I want to spend most of my time today talking about the Labor Department, what we do, and the services that we provide, and I also want to let you know how to better access the services we provide. The Labor Department has two central missions. One is to develop and fund job training programs that develop a skilled and competent workforce. Our job training programs span every state, every age, every income level, every background. And while this recession continues to touch every state and every community, it hits minority communities the hardest. During the recession, the unemployment rate peaked at 9.3% for white workers but 13% for Latino workers and 17% for African American workers. So there have been racial disparities in our recession and in our recovery. And our job training programs have a special focus on pumping skills training into vulnerable communities. So we're training low-income youth, we're training veterans, we're training seniors, we're training women, we're training ex-offenders. And we're also especially looking at the long-term unemployed to make sure that they can get good jobs again and pathways to meaningful careers. And we're doing this in all kinds of industries, everything from construction to advanced manufacturing to healthcare, information technology, clean energy. We've had green job training grants over the last 3 years that have reached nearly 83,000 workers across the country. More than 51,000 of them actually completed the training programs, and 87% of them have received a credential as a result of that. We're funding job training programs all across Colorado. For veterans, we've launched a new website called My Next Move for Veterans to help them find jobs that translate the skills that they already have. We've also developed a Veterans Gold Card, which allows post-9/11 veterans to get 6 months of job counseling and personalized case management services. Recently, we awarded the Colorado Labor Department and its partners $5 million to train local workers for advanced technology jobs in science and technology and in engineering. We've targeted the long-term unemployed directly as part of our H-1B Technical Skills Program, and that's a program that's designed to grow American talent in industries where employers now use the H-1B program to hire foreign workers. We want to put American workers in those jobs. And back in 2010, we pumped over $5 million into Colorado to teach workers the skills required in clean energy, renewable energy, and to build on the amazing work that's already being done with green jobs in Colorado. But we want to do more in Colorado. We're currently accepting applications for our Jobs Accelerator grant program. It directs federal dollars to urban, rural, and blended regions to accelerate innovation from the bottom up. It's a smarter way, we believe, to build up regional economies, or regional clusters, as we call them. They have enormous job-creating potential. I have to tell you that when I was Commissioner of Labor in New York, we had a regional cluster in upstate New York. If you ever go to Plattsburgh, New York, you'd be surprised how well they're doing in this recession. And one of the reasons it is because they've been working for many years on their regional clusters and developing those economies in those industries. What a regional cluster does, it recognizes that companies in a common area, in common industries, have common needs for workers. And so that what we can do is that we can target our job training funds to the needs that those businesses in those areas, in those sectors have for workers. And it really helps with economic development. We've also gotten together with other federal agencies and provided seed money for things that create a multiplier effect that speeds innovation and job growth. And because we know that low income and underserved communities were hit hardest by the financial crisis, we made it a priority that grant recipients encourage those communities to participate in these programs. And this kind of collaboration is happening all around the country. So I encourage all of you to get onto our website, which is dol.gov, and apply. Look at the grant opportunities and have your local communities apply. I can't really stress the importance of community partnerships and job training efforts. President Obama's put partnerships at the head of his vision to create an economy that's built to last, as he says. To do our part, the Labor Department is promoting the President's $8 billion Community College to Career Fund to forge new partnerships between community colleges, local businesses, and the workforce system. The idea is simple, and I've seen it work in New York. We match what the students are learning in school with what local businesses are looking for. We help employers to match what's taught in the classroom with their needs in an office or on the factory floor. Last September, we awarded over $500 million to foster these partnerships for job training. And the Secretary recently joined Dr. Biden to announce the second round of $500 million for these grants. Our big push now is summer jobs. The Secretary recently joined the President to announce the Summer Jobs Plus initiative. It's an action call to businesses, not-for-profits, local mayors, local governments, to put people, young people, to work for the summer. The city of Denver was actually one of the first to join as a Summer Jobs Plus city, and I'm told they're doing great work. We all know this. There's no substitute for the real world experience of showing up for work. There's no replacement for the dignity of bringing home a paycheck. And there's nothing that I think that young people need more than that experience and that chance to experience those things. We've already secured commitments for over 200,000 summer jobs for youth this summer, and we're going towards a goal of 250 summer jobs across the country. So I encourage any employer, any city official that's here to step up to the plate and get on our website and see if you can join the Summer Jobs Plus. Now, well, I focus a lot now on job training, and as far as the dollars are concerned, that's the biggest part of what the Labor Department does. I want to talk about what I've done my entire life, and that is the fair and robust enforcement of our nation's labor laws. The Labor Department protects the rights of all workers, and we help level the playing field for employers who play by the rules. And I think that's a very important point to make, because in my career, I can't tell you how many times I've been approached by an employer who says, "You gotta help me. My competition is cheating and it's killing my bottom line." And no employer in this country should have to choose between obeying the labor law and staying in business. And that's the reason that we have to enforce the labor laws, not just for the workers, but for those businesses that follow the law. One of the things that we do is we protect Americans' right to safe, clean working conditions. My colleague, David Michaels, the Assistant Secretary for OSHA, says it all the time. A worker shouldn't have to choose between supporting their family and risking their death. Every worker should be able to come home safe and sound at the end of every day to their family. It's obviously good for workers and communities, but it's good for employers who value having a skilled workforce who can stay for them for years. Actually, a study was just published. I just read about it yesterday in the Harvard Business Review. A study was done for businesses in California, where Cal OSHA actually does inspect, that showed that safety inspections saved businesses money in the long run. It saved their workers' comp, it saved their productivity, it actually saves money. It doesn't hurt businesses. Unfortunately, not all workers can count on coming home. Take, for example, the 2007 tunnel fire at the Cabin Creek electrical plant in Clear Creek, Colorado. Do you remember that? 5 men died in that. We worked with OSHA and the federal prosecutors who ultimately charged the plant's owner and the painting company, alleging they hadn't put adequate safety measures in place to protect the fire or to provide a viable means of rescue for those workers. I want to shout out to that prosecutor because it was a tough case, and frankly, the power company was acquitted at the end. But the painting company was also indicted, pleaded guilty last fall, and agreed to pay $1.55 million in compensation to the families of the deceased, to serve 5 years of probation, and to pay a $100,000 fine to OSHA. This victory and that money can't bring those workers back to their family. It can't make up for that loss, but it does send a message that OSHA and the federal prosecutors will take on employers who unnecessarily risk their employees' lives. In addition to health and safety workplaces, all workers have the right to get paid the full wages that they're owed. When Hilda Solis became Labor Secretary, she hired 300 new wage and hour investigators to increase our enforcement. We have 1,000 wage investigators. 2/3 of them are bilingual because we know that many people who are abused in this way are bilingual. Last year, the Labor Department secured $200 million in back wages for more than 275,000 workers across this country. That's the largest amount of back wages this department has ever secured in its entire history, and we're about to be 100 years old next year. In Colorado alone, we secured more than $4 million in back wages for Colorado citizens. One of the things that this department has had a priority on is the practice of misclassifying employees. That's when an employer starts calling its employees independent contractors. When an employee is called an independent contractor, this is what happens. They lose their right to workers' compensation. They lose their right to unemployment insurance if they're laid off. Their payroll taxes increased. It is an ever-increasing practice, and it's one that I think is really hitting middle-class workers very hard. It's bad for workers, but as I said before, it's also bad for employers who classify their employees and treat them as employees because it hits their bottom line. It also affects state governments, and the states are actually a leader in this because it hurts state workers' compensation programs, it hurts state unemployment insurance programs, and we all know that the trust fund, I'm sure the trust fund in Colorado is probably no better off than most states. They're in the red. So the states, and it also hurts their revenue department, so states are interested in this. We've begun to partner with states. In fact, just a few weeks ago, we signed an agreement with the Colorado Labor Commissioner to work with on these issues, to share information, to do joint investigations. We've entered into similar partnerships with another 12 states, everywhere from California to Utah to Connecticut to Louisiana, and we've entered into a partnership with the IRS because we know that while we are the small chickens, so to speak, when it comes to doing these investigations, the agency with the big stick is the IRS. And so we've entered into an agreement with the IRS where we've agreed to take all of the cases where we find misclassification and send them over to the IRS for them to also investigate it. But we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help. And we want to partner with institutions where we know that they're most likely to go to assistance. We're working around the clock to find those partners. One of the things that we've done in Colorado is we've hired community liaisons. They're people who work for the Labor Department who go out to communities to try to find what do those communities need, are they being served by the Labor Department, how can they better be served by the Labor Department. We talk to workers, we engage local stakeholders and employers, we provide education, we provide resources. We're proud of the progress that we've made over the last 3 years in the Labor Department, but we need help, we want to do more, we know that you can help us. You have the pulse of your community, you know what's going on in your community. We really welcome information from you, we welcome you talking to our community liaisons. We welcome you learning more about the resources the Labor Department has that can help get people back to work in your community. Because that's all our job, right? That's all our goal. Let's get people back to work. Thank you.
Answer a question or two.
Sure.